Hi guys, I'm so excited for you to join me for this week of Yoga for Runners presented by Mobility Doc. Yoga offers a really great foundation for improving flexibility, among other things. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a physical therapy approach. We're going to challenge a little bit of that flexibility in a slightly different way, and then also we're going to relate this to the mechanics of running. So we need to improve some of the flexibility in our hips. That's going to make us more efficient when we run. Follow along with me for the 3 rounds. We're going to do 3 stretches, including pre-test and post-test, so you can see how much you improve in just a short period of time. One thing you're going to hear me talking about is the position that my pelvis is in. So what happens is if this right leg is forward, a lot of times this right hip comes forward, this left hip comes back. I want you guys to square this off. So both sides of your pelvis are pointing straight forward and they're in the same plane. So what happens is when the right leg is forward, the right hip draws forward, and that's just because of some of the muscles pulling, and now this left hip is back. So now look down and then if you can, place your hands on the front of your pelvis, draw your right hip back and your left hip forward. This is the position you need to be in when you go to set up for pigeon. So when I'm walking this leg over to the side, I need to make sure that whole time that both sides of my pelvis are pointing forward. Don't let that right leg creep forward as you do it. For my pre-test, I'm going to test left side and right side. So right foot is to the outside of my right hand, walking my right foot out to the left, and then placing that shin down. So I'm just trying to get a sense of like, okay, what does this side feel like? I can feel this all through like this whole glute area and around, even in through my inner thigh. So kind of just taking a note of what the right side feels like, and then we'll go to the left. So walking that leg over to the side. Now this side feels very different for me, so that's what you'll probably notice too, is that one side feels a little bit different than the other. So this is my pre-test. For the first exercise, I'm going to do lizard. So I'm going to hold, I'm going to bring my right foot to the outside of my right hand, push this knee out to the side. Both sides of my pelvis are going to be pointing forward. I'm trying to keep the back of my neck long. What happens a lot of times is our spine kind of rounds. So I'm trying to extend from my middle back, keep the back of my neck long, keep my shoulders away from my ears. I'm going to hold this for 30 seconds. I am watching the time as I do this. I'm trying to bring that knee to the outside as well. Then I'll bring this down, and then we're going to do the left side. So now you'll probably find that one side feels a little bit different than the other. So I know for myself, I can sink down a little bit more on this left side, but actually my right hip flexor is a little bit tighter, so it's a little bit harder for me in that front part of my hip. Now I'm going to do butterfly. So I'm sitting at the edge of, this is an ab mat, but you can also use a towel or a yoga mat. I'm pressing my feet together. I'm keeping my chest as upright as I can. I'm sitting on this ab mat in order to help me with rotating my pelvis forward. I'll show you guys different angles because one of the things that ends up happening is that people will round too much. So press your feet together, keep the outer edge of your foot on the ground. Try to lift your chest up as best you can. Just like that. We're holding this for 30 seconds. Good, and now we're gonna do modified pigeon. I'll push this out to the side. So for that modified pigeon, my right knee is coming up in between both of my hands. I'm walking that right foot out to the side, and then I'm walking my left foot back. And I should feel this stretching all through here. So my knee is bent, okay? This is gonna kind of protect that area, so then you can kind of make sure that you're not putting too much force on the outer portion of the knee. Sometimes people end up feeling this a lot in their outer knee when they do pigeon because their glute is too tight. So this is a really great starting point to challenge a little bit of that flexibility. Good, and then you're gonna switch sides, and that knee's forward, walk back. One of the things that I do love about doing stretches like this is that you can kind of feel like what the right side feels like versus the left. So for me, I need to really focus on, for this one, I'm gonna bring this right hip forward. My left hip is coming back that whole time. Now we're finishing up with the third stretch. We're gonna repeat this 2 more times. So now I'm going back into lizard. So my right foot is to the outside of my right hand, and I'm going to try to push this knee out a little bit. So I'll show you guys from here. So you see how I'm really trying to think about pushing that knee to the outside of my foot, so then I can get a little bit of a different stretch, just like that. And I'm trying to extend my spine. I'm really trying to think about bringing this thigh down toward the ground. Good. Switch sides. You don't even have to lift this back knee if you feel this enough. The thing that I just really want you to focus on though is just dropping this whole leg down, okay? Because what happens is we kind of end up doing this sort of thing. I want you to drop that hip down so you can get, and like kind of shift your weight over to that left-hand side. You'll get a little bit more of a stretch. Good, and come on down. We're gonna do butterfly. So as I sit here, I'm trying to think about, before I even pull my legs in, I really wanna try to sit upright like this. So you see how I'm trying to rotate my pelvis forward, so I have a slight arch in my back. I'm extending through my middle back as well. Then I'm pressing my feet together and then trying to come forward. So it's not this motion. I'm really trying to think about, it's like I'm hinging actually from my hips, and I'm really trying to bring my whole chest forward without rounding my spine. That's the challenge. This will get easier and easier too as those hips start to unlock, because it's going to be easier for you to rotate your hips forward. Good, and then come on down. We're going to do that modified pigeon. I'll show you guys, I'll show you from the front. So I'm bringing this right knee forward, and then you see how I'm trying to keep both sides of my pelvis pointing forward, and then you see how my right foot is kind of right in front of that left thigh. And now I'm hinging from, you can go down, but the thing that I'm actually really trying to think about is I want to try to get my femur bone, like so my butt, down on the ground. I can't do that exactly. Like people will try to bend forward, but what I'm actually really trying to do is I'm trying to press that femur down. Good, and we'll try the other side. So I'm walking back, and as I'm walking back, I'm really trying to push this part down. So for me, it's a little bit easier actually to do it on this left side. You can come forward to get a little bit more pressure, but you really want to try to focus on making sure though that you're trying to push that femur down a little bit more. You'll notice this then when we redo pigeon then too. Good, and now we're gonna do last time lizard. I'll show you guys from a slightly different angle. So my right foot is to the outside of my right hand. I'm coming up. Now this is what I was talking about. This part of my femur, so here, that's what I'm trying to push down. What happens is when people are tight, they're up like this, okay? We really want to try to push that part down. If you're pretty flexible, then you can bring your elbows down, but you really want to try to make sure that you're extending through that middle back when you do that. So trying not to round. Whew, yeah, I definitely feel this now. A lot more. And now this is our third round too, so it might be a little bit easier to get there. Good, and then come on up, and then you're gonna bring the other leg. And you might find that one side you can go down, and the other side you can't. I think I can more comfortably come down on this side. But now this whole time, I'm really trying to make sure that I'm pushing this left thigh down without just dropping this knee down either. I'm trying to keep that right knee straight as I do that. And you might find too, like a little bit of shifting side to side might be helpful too. You might feel that a little bit differently as well. Good, try to extend from that middle back area. Good, and we'll do, last time will be butterfly. I'll show you guys from this side. So when I go to set up, I'm in this position, so I'm trying to rotate forward. It's almost like I'm actually kind of coming off of that ab mat. And you can bring your feet forward as you're feeling a little bit more flexible. But actually for me, if my heels are maybe 6 to 8 inches away from my pelvis, I'm actually able to rotate forward a little bit more and feel the stretch a little bit more effectively, just in a slightly different place. So I actually personally really like, I really like this way. So I'm trying to rotate forward as best I can. Good, and then we'll do last time with that modified pigeon. I'll show you guys from this side angle. So bring that knee forward, and this is what I was talking about, is that this part of my femur I'm trying to bring down. So without just kind of shifting over to the side, I'm really trying to stay stacked on top of my pelvis and just really push this part here down toward the ground as best I can. Now that I'm feeling more flexible, I can also walk my left leg back a little bit more. And then I'm trying to extend from that middle back as well. I can even feel, I have to try to bring this right hip back, my left hip forward to get a little bit more of a stretch. That's what's kind of hard, is that I kind of start to rotate a little bit. Good, now let's try the other side. So now, same idea. So as I start walking back, both sides of my pelvis need to be pointing forward. So I don't want to turn open. I want to try to keep both sides pointing forward as I do this. So it's a little bit easier for me to do this on my left side. And you can play around with, like, okay, is your knee directly between your hands, or does your left knee kind of come over to the side a little bit, over to that left side a little bit more? That's okay too. So just kind of play around with that. You'll see that one side will feel slightly different from the other. Good, all right guys, now that is a wrap. So we are going to retest pigeon. So I'll show you guys from this side here. I can already feel this is gonna be so much looser. So my right foot is to the outside of my right hand, walking my right foot over to the left, trying to keep my shin perpendicular to my body. Both sides of my pelvis are pointing forward. Okay, so you can see I'm kind of turning this way. So I'm really trying to pull that right hip back, left hip comes forward, and then I retest. Oh yeah, that feels so much better. And I can even feel like, okay, I need to pull this right hip back a little bit more, left hip forward, but that's also though why I'm doing this. This is why this is week 2. And then you can retest the left side. So left foot to the outside of the left hand, walk it over to the right, place that shin down, and then walk that back. So you're really trying to see, for me, this is so much easier, like for me to draw my left hip back and my right hip forward. That is what I really want you guys to focus on. Nice. If you like this or found it to be useful, or both, please share it with someone that you know so they can get more out of their stretches as well.